Yeah, so Mustafa and I wanted to mix up kind of like him showing you actual code, and then things we deal a lot with app developers is we'd love to give an inside look on how we do design for our own app icons, and some of the process we've worked through as we've developed our own app icons. So yeah, hopefully it's helpful. Also, feel free to ask any questions while I'm talking. You know, I want this to be more of a conversation, and I know a lot of you guys are doing this stuff, so I'd love to. We can do questions at the end, or we'll also talk during it. So this design, kind of this set of workshops, I worked with one of our lead designers, Adam Glenfinnegan from the UK. He put this together for me for a hackathon we did. We had a lot of apps, really good apps that were being built, and at this hackathon, one of the best apps, you could actually run a fully working presentation off of Evernote. So Evernote powered the slides. So you basically had text, and every time you did a horizontal rule, that was like the next page. A beautiful app. And we were super excited to promote it, but in the end, they named the app Ever Keynote. And the problem with it is obviously, like, we're a brand, right? Evernote's a brand, and Keynote is a brand of Apple. And we were kind of stuck because we had wished that they built their own brand that they could build on, they could become their own company, but by kind of just like, as developers, sometimes we just take what we got, or we think of something clever, but it's actually something you really can't bring to market. The ending of that story was they changed their name to Slide Note, but our CEO said that we could allow them to use Ever in their name if Apple first allowed them to use Keynote. So yeah, that clearly didn't happen. So yeah, why don't we go through it? So I think one of the things we think about a lot is Evernote started off just as Evernote, but now we have 7+ different apps, and they all work, they all sync to the Evernote cloud platform, but they also have to feel like they're part of a family. So we're lucky that as we've been growing our design team at Evernote, we have a lot of UI designers, we have UX designers, we also have a couple in-house illustrators. And one of them is Carlos Rocafort. We brought him out to California. He was a freelance illustrator in Puerto Rico. He ran a startup himself in Puerto Rico. And he was doing lots of, he comes from a family, like his brother is one of the lead illustrators for DC Comics. He actually is on the Batman line. Carlos is one of the top threadless t-shirt artists. He has a lot of cool t-shirt art and stuff. But he's perfect for our app icons because he really thinks about, when you're thinking about an app icon, you're trying to convey quality. You're trying to also convey somewhat of what is the interaction. So as you're building your apps, you got to think of like, what can I fit in a 65 by 65 pixel square and your website design that can convey the user all the things you're trying to get across. Something unique and original is, I think, what I'm trying to argue for. So as you're thinking about creative, memorable icons and just design in general, we really want to start with getting the rough work out. And I think Evernote as a paperless company, what's ironic is a lot of us start with paper first. I think a lot of us want to sketch ideas out, even if you're doing, so my background's designer developer. So sometimes I'm actually dealing with the server setup, and sometimes I'm actually dealing with a comp, or I'm working with another designer to build out what he designed. And I think what's really important is, even if you can't draw, like, you need to get your ideas out on paper or an iPad if you use a drawing app, but you have to get your ideas out, because I think that helps you think through all the different aspects of what you're trying to build. And a lot of people know there's a really good book called Sketchnoting. I would definitely suggest you looking at it, but sketchnoting, as we like to call it, is essentially getting out the thoughts, but also doing some diagramming so you're getting a better idea. I think you'll find that you're going to get something very quick out of that, and then a business process and stuff can come after. And the whole point of it is just it needs to make sense to you. So as you're sketching, like, what is your business plan, or what is your app icon, or what is your user interface for your mobile app or website? You know, sometimes you can have more like UI layouts in your Moleskine notebooks or paper you get out of the printer. Sometimes it's actual something really messy, just something you're trying to get. Sometimes you're doing actual UML documents. You're trying to do database layout. You're trying to do workflow. Getting that out on paper first is, I think, the best way to really get started. So once you kind of get those ideas out on paper, what designers and a lot of UI developers want to do is really whittle that down to the core thought. So this is just a sample of something Postbox. I think some of you have used it. Postbox is an email app. They're trying to filter out like what is the essence of a mailbox? What does it mean? How do we make it into an icon? Something that people can connect the real world, the physical world, with the digital app you're creating. So they're trying to think through that process. And this is, I think this slide is really important. I think to get this slide, it's so easy to think your app is original, but two factors that I think a lot of the top apps in the app stores make a mistake of is the icon. Like, these are all different, very popular apps, but altogether they're the same. And also for color. Clearly, most of these are very, very popular apps, but it's just a sea of blue and white. And I think when you're building your app, you got to have a well-designed app, obviously. But think about, how is the icon unique? How is it showing something about, how is it telling a story about what you're building? And also color, like try to think of, like when you're doing think of colors that are identifiable to you. Make your own color scheme, make your own design patterns for your app. So I want to talk about now the process of Evernote Hello. Evernote Hello is one of our apps that allows you to, it's sort of like a contact app. It actually allows you to remember where you met someone. So you can say, oh, I met them at Bogota, or I met them somewhere else. And I think it creates your Evernote of that contact. So when we were trying to create the app, these are some of the original settings. The interaction. So in the first version of Evernote Hello, you could actually hand your iPhone to someone, and then they could enter in the information. Now you can actually just you can just connect them if they're close in range. But we're trying to think about Evernote Hello lets you have notes based on event. It's also the first interaction that you have with someone. It's also meeting someone for the first time. So we're trying to like really just get out different ideas that we had. So these are some that Carlos did. And then we kind of, the first version of Evernote Hello that came out, we were trying to think of like when you first meet someone at an event, what's that like interaction like? So we went with, I'll just call him a white dude. We started going with this concept. We put glasses on, we tried different aspects, and then we ended up with kind of the last one. This is a perfect example of a workflow like revision that we have. So we found out through our users after we released Evernote Hello that this symbol in Japan is very synonymous with people who are peeping on someone. So specifically Japanese women felt like this icon represented a guy looking around a window like this. And that's a big problem for us because that equates us with creepy, right? Like Evernote Hello is supposed to be like, hey, what's up? It's not supposed to be like, I see you. So we kind of had to go back to the drawing board. So then what Carlos did is, that was in for about a month, and then we started getting feedback, that kind of white dude, let's try to get something more friendly. So Carlos then went back to, let's think interaction based. All the different meanings of someone, or meeting someone, kind of going with more a tight focus, or the first time you meet someone at an event, all the different times you've met someone. So we're trying to think through all these things, and that helps us kind of really think, all right, what is the core focus of Evernote Hello? And then Carlos, with his cartooning background, started doing, he's really into those mini bots and those little plastic configurable bots. So he started going with that, and then created something more unique. And we have our kind of non-controversial happy gummy man. That's what Hello is now. I don't think he creeps out or offends anyone. He's just there like, hey. And supposedly he's on a timeline, kind of like going back. So yeah, that's kind of the process of how Evernote Hello, how our team worked a couple iterations to get to where it needed to be. So one point, as you know, only a handful of you are designers. Most of us come from a developer background or engineering background. Think of this as a lesson for both sides of us, right? So I am a designer, developer, so I have built web apps for a designer. I have built comps for engineers, more technical engineers. I have seen both sides of the coin, and I think working really hard to have a good dynamic with your designers and developers is really critical to the app being well polished, designed, and solid. And I think what it is, it's mutual respect that you have to get across. So a developer who's working with a bunch of designers can feel like they are not helpful. Maybe so the negative things, not helpful, don't know what they're talking about, they're not thinking about the critical path. Designers, oh, the developers treat me like an idiot. They think I don't know anything. They think, you know, they don't think my UX is helpful. Those things can be alleviated by like just working stuff out, talking stuff through. Some examples of how designers can be helpful to the engineers is, you know, it helps engineers have them make very clean PSD or AI documents for you, really laying out everything, because the next time you iterate and want to update your UI, if you have design patterns, then you can just update those elements. Clean layering stack is important. As a developer, when I get a clean layered stack, it helps me do the comp so much faster. And then also little things that designers can do to help make your job easier as you're building a mobile app or web is laying out what the boundary boxes are, laying out how the different gradients and vectors should work. And then you kind of get more specific. So if any of you are building mobile apps, you know, it's important now to have Retina. You have to support Retina or else you're going to be the blurry app in the App Store. So the designer clearly labeling out all the different files, giving you for Retina at 2x.png, you know, giving you the crisp things all in a shared folder you can work with. Those are things that are going to make a big difference. And now for the part that our team works on a lot, like I talked about in the beginning of our keynote, I just want to briefly explain why it's valuable to you to make your own brand. I know a lot of you have your existing apps and you're considering adding a safe to Evernote for the Dev Cup. That's great. I know some of you maybe don't have an app yet, but are going to build one in the next month. If you're in that block, like, it doesn't help us as a trademark and as Evernote, and it doesn't help you for you to create ever something with an elephant on your app, because you know, Facebook was one of the first marketplaces where you could download third-party apps. For the first 2 years, every app was called Face Note, Face this, Face that. It kind of like no one said anything. 2 years later, they just cut all those apps out of the App Store because they were breaking trademark of a brand you're working with. And then it doesn't help a user if I'm looking for Evernote and I download what I think is Evernote, but it's actually your app. That doesn't help anybody if you're just kind of like pulling off another brand. The point is you want your brand to be unique, and you may eventually like add more cloud services to your app. You shouldn't be stuck with the first app you synced with. We're totally aware that like the best apps are going to have multiple sync points with many APIs to be useful for your users. Create a brand that's unique and intuitive. So this is the stuff that makes the hackathons a lot. Like app, ever mobile tab. These are little things we saw everywhere. They're just kind of and clearly they didn't have a designer or a brand person helping them. These are mistakes you can avoid. Let's forget about Evernote for a second though. Like tweet something. I mean, Twitter, like we don't hammer down on developers, but other platforms will. I mean, it's a trademark, you know, you wouldn't want to build an app and someone else riff off it and then it's confusing which app is which. The designer, Adam, put this in. He just tried to make it very clear. When it comes to designing your icon and it syncs with Evernote, just don't put a green elephant, don't take a green elephant and call it Note Ever Forever. I think positive things to kind of look at, kind of focusing on the things we like. These are different apps that we promote heavily. These are, most of these guys, except for Sketch, we own Sketch. Most of these are independent developers that we're very proud of and we promote to our users. So conferences are only going to allow you to do live conferencing, and at the end of the call, you can kind of save everything that happened in the meeting. It'll get compiled and save it into all of your Evernote notes. So then you have a record of what was discussed, what we talked about, what was the audio, at which points. Very helpful. Prism kind of like helps with optical recognition. You can also search through all your cloud services. So if did I save that in Basecamp or Google Docs or Evernote? This will kind of help you know all of us use a million cloud services. I certainly do. This helps me know where to go. Snappy, I'm really proud of. Snappy was a college student at a hackathon we ran in Boston. I was dying I wanted to, when you do a screenshot in Mac, on your Mac desktop, you kind of do Control-Shift-S, whatever, and then you select everything. I wanted basically to override that, so if I did a special like Control-Shift-E or something, I could select the screen, and then instantly it put that image, it put it up into my Evernote account, and then in my clipboard was the shared Evernote note. So as a developer, if I'm trying to show the designer, hey, does this look good? Like, did I do a good job? is like my grids like on the spot. I can screenshot it, then just paste in Skype the public Evernote note link, so he can just view the image right away in a URL. The nice thing is all my clips are stored, all my stuff is saved. He built that in Python the first time, and then he ended up using it as an excuse for DevCup last year to learn Objective-C. So those are kind of things like, I think it's a great example of something. All of these use Evernote. They even say we integrate with Evernote, Snappy for Evernote, but they have these things. Be creative, but keep it simple for your identity. If you ever need questions, I mean, we've kind of talked about this a lot. We're on the forums. Like, that's one of the best ways for us to directly help you. So, I don't know what other platforms you've built for on APIs online, but with Evernote, if you're working on an app, we will talk to you. We are always on answering questions. There's about 9 of us in the platform team, but I'll actually get engineers from the different product teams to answer specific questions. So we want to be very responsive. It's in our best interest to have really good third-party apps to promote. You can reach us with anything developer forums. And that's what I get for design. Any questions? Thoughts? All right, awesome. Thanks, guys. Mustafa will kick it off from here. Thanks. Yeah.